Karama, how you doing?
I am hanging in there. Okay, here we go. I guess my
It's
light
early
is
morning.
not as light as it should be. I'm gonna have to brighten that
Okay.
up a little bit so I can look as bright and as pretty as you all. Thank you for being patient
Oh,
while I sorted out
no
my
problem.
technical issues. I was like, Crowdcast really doesn't like me, and it's not the website. It's not the web. It's I think just
Mhm.
my camera. It's just like,
Oh,
hey, we don't know her, and I'm like,
oh.
great.
It's early morning for all of us. All
So
right,
let me see if
no
I can
problem.
adjust this a little bit, back up out your faces a little bit. Okay.
There you go. All right, cool, man. You let me know when you're ready. We'll get started.
I am ready. Thank you so much, by the way,
No problem.
for having me. And yes, I got the gray hoodie message. I got the gray message. So I think we're all me and Karen are on the same page.
All right, here we go. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Blackout Tips podcast. I'm your host, Rod, joined as always by my co-host,
Karen.
and we are live on a Sunday
Mm-hmm.
morning, early. Okay, so all the heathens that didn't go to church is hanging with us right now, and we appreciate y'all. Okay, and we're not alone.
Mm-mm.
We have a guest, second time on our show. Today's guest is journalist, podcaster, content creator, Twitch streamer, author now, Karama Horne, aka the Blerd Gurl, and she's here to talk about her new book, Black Panther: Protectors of Wakanda: A History and Training Manual of the Dora Milaje. What's going on, Karama? How you doing?
I'm good. What's up, everybody? It's Karama Horne, aka the Blerd Girl. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, it's really funny. There's been so much going on, Ryan and Karen. We gotta catch up. But um, I was like, you know what? Black Guy Who Tips be and I get the alerts. I'm like, yo, they be grinding. They are live every single day. And I said, Robin Banks Natural Purse, I'm gonna make this happen. And so I was like, I can't not be there because they are there for everybody else
uh,
every single day. So
thank you. And I always see every time I go on Instagram, I feel like you're putting out a new video or you like interview a new person, or you, like I feel like you're always grinding too. You know.
I am, but I don't have the grind that y'all have to be live every day. I'm
Well.
still working on that because I still have something. I'm like, and even my Twitch stuff I had to slow down for a little bit because I was making it at like a production. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and go to like TikTok where people just kind of roll out of bed and go live. I'm gonna try doing that for a minute,
That's the
and
key.
then
That's the key.
Only a few seconds.
I don't dress up
yeah,
for this. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I don't have to beat my face. I just show up, turn on this ring light, and I'm like, this
yeah.
is
But
what
see
happened
that,
today.
but you would do. Karen knows what I mean. Sometimes you want to be a
Mhm.
little extra.
That's what
Sometimes
I'm saying. Yeah. No. We saying the same thing. I'm saying like I get like being like, listen, I'm only doing one of these a week. I gotta beat my face.
because
I got like I'm just showing up, you know? Like
even
they
for
don't
this
like
book tour,
me.
I actually just had that conversation with somebody very recently. They were like, it
Yeah.
was a shoot they wanted me to do when I asked if hair and makeup was included. And they're like, no, Karama always looks great. Just have her do what she always does. And I was like, what Karama always does is get hair and makeup.
Right. Come on now.
Right.
Come
Yeah,
on.
I don't do this myself, so I don't blame you. I think
I don't either. People think I do it myself. And I'm like, no, no,
Mm,
no. There's people who are paid. I don't care if I'm running into Sephora before I go to something
right.
else because somebody else is doing it.
Yeah.
yes, because I am not a makeup person, so it takes a lot. I remember I went one place and they was like, "How do you want your makeup?" And my eyes just went blink, blink, blink. They was like, "Do you want it light? Do you want it dark?" I was like, just make me look natural. They was like, "Oh, okay." And they
Yeah.
went to town and it was gorgeous. But I was like, "Don't be asking no questions now."
Like, I don't know what this is.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's funny too because like with game theory, the show I write for, with Bomani, we had like certain shoots that would be like man on the street, this, that, and the other. And it's like not for all the shoots. There is no such thing as he just shows up and we record. It's
Right,
we gotta
because
go through the makeup, we gotta get the haircut guy in here, we gotta do the whole fucking thing, or else it's a
yes.
point, we wasted everyone's time, because you, especially as Black people, you only get like one time to be off point, because Black people are gonna be like, he was looking dry that day. I don't know what happened.
That's what
next
I'm
show."
saying. That's what I'm saying. Other people can show up unwashed and unmoisturized, but
and be just fine, right?
and I would go to that conventions all the time. They're like, "Well, Steve and Dave," and I'm like, "Steve and Dave haven't bathed in a week. That's not my problem.
Right? Yeah.
That is none of my concern. Their hygiene is not an issue here. What's
Right.
an issue is the fact that I don't have the people that you told me to have." So,
Oh man.
yeah, but
So
anyway, this is not a show about makeup.
yeah.
Podcast listeners are like, I have no idea what's happening right now.
Yeah, listen, let's talk about the Dora Milaje, okay? Let's talk about this book. What kind of research goes into writing a book that's based on a comic? Because this book is prose, this book is there's a lot of words in here.
I had to remind you that. I remember that. You were like, it's a comic.
Listen,
I'm like, no, it's not.
When I even, because listen, okay, so this is the story behind the scenes on that. I bought the book off the strength of Karama got a book coming out. Let's go. Like, it was,
and I was so touched. I was like, because at first I was hurt. I was like, you don't know what the book is about. Then he was like, I didn't care. You wrote it, and I was like,
yeah, I hadn't even got it yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had, like, at that time, we was just like it was all vibes. I was like, we just supporting Black people, Karama good people.
Yeah,
let's go, Black Panther, boom.
Yeah.
And then I get the book, and and then so we're emailing or whatever. I was like, okay, so here are my questions. And she's like, it's not a comic book. I was like, oh yeah, okay. It's prose. Boom. Let's switch that up. No problem. And then the book came like the next day, by the way, in the mail. But
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was like, damn, I wish I had waited one more day. If I had been tardy on responding to emails, I would have looked smarter. But it doesn't.
You are hilarious.
But what is it like to write this? Because it is coming into a world where there's a history. There's a lot of people who contributed to this story from so many walks of life over time, and then boom, here you come with like the latest entry.
Writing for the Dora Milaje was really a very interesting process, because like you said, it's licensed. So for those of you aspiring writers out there, writing for licensed material means you're playing in somebody else's playground, which is a little bit different than writing your own work. So there's sort of a fence, and you never quite know where the fence is until you hit it. And like, yeah, you can't do that. So when first of all, I didn't set out to write this book. Marvel reached out to me, and I tell people all the time, don't do this. If somebody reaches out to you and asks you to write a book, you don't go, who, me? Are you sure? Because that's what I did. Don't do that.
That would have been me.
Well, and the only reason why, and it wasn't like I didn't think I could write a book. It was that I'm also, as you know, a journalist. So Rod, just like you said, going through emails too fast. And I thought they were asking me to interview somebody who was writing a book about the Dora Milaje.
Right. She's like, okay.
And they were like, no. That person would be you. Like, oh, whoops. So yeah, it was just it was a trip. So basically, and I'm going to get to the answer to your question, but there's a reason why I'm going. This is the reason why I'm going the long way. The Marvel uses several different publishers to produce and publish their prose work. So Marvel Comics is Marvel Comics here in New York City. But if it's YA, middle grade, historical fiction, whatever it is, they're all going to get farmed out to different publishing houses. So the publishing house that I worked with did a book called The Wakanda Files. They also did another book called The Jedi Manual. So it was all about how to become a Jedi and all these things. So it's like historical fiction. It's like, we really would like something like that for the Dora Milaje. And I'm like, that's amazing. Except Star Wars has a very long history of written canon and several movies and a bunch of stuff. And I was like, okay, I can do that, but there's not much history on the Dora Milaje. And like, that's what you can do. I was like, okay, cool. So then it came down to narrowing down. I thought I had free reign to like all of Marvel comics or whatever. But what happens is, oh, and by the way, the book is just based on the comics. It's not the MCU.
Right.
And that confused, and I felt bad about that, but I understood why. And I felt bad because a lot of Black folks got into Black Panther universe and comics from the first movie. But there's a reason why Marvel does that, and that's because the MCU is, first of all of Marvel is very siloed, but the MCU is in a completely different, they don't communicate with the comics end. So they were like, you can't, the way they just are able to blanket with all of their writers, just give them a blanket rule is your book is based on the comics. Lucky for me, the first Black Panther movie, Ryan Coogler borrowed a lot from Ta-Nehisi Coates and Christopher Priest and some even from Jonathan Hickman and things like that. So it wasn't too far away. And even World of Wakanda, Roxane Gay, etc. So I didn't have too far to stray, but it was very interesting having conversations about it because I had to sit and go through the majority of the Black Panther history and then piece together like these threads of what the Dora were doing in the existing canon. Because a lot of people have written Black Panther. Not many people have written about the Dora Milaje.
Right.
So I wanted for comic book readers, I wanted my book to just sit in the middle of the comics. So you'll read stuff in here and go, oh, wait, I remember when that happened in the comics. So this is what was going on in the background, like that kind of thing. And then people who haven't read the comics that only know the movie or might not know that much at all about the world, I wanted them to be able to read stuff in here too. And that is why I really pushed hard to be allowed to use a lot of the Fantastic Four canon, Doom Wars, things like that, because there's a lot of things that happen outside of the Black Panther comics that are, labeled Black Panther. Because even if you remember, Black Panther was introduced in Fantastic Four. And then Jonathan Hickman has a whole F4 run where Fantastic Four is in Wakanda. I'm like, we can't just ignore this. And I think it was Jonathan Mayberry that did when Black Panther had lost his powers, Shuri was queen and he became king of the dead, and he gave him like the Avatar Last Airbender powers where he could like talk to all of the past Black Panthers.
Yep.
So I asked them for three things. I'm like, if you give me nothing else, let me use Ta-Nehisi Coates' run, that run where he could talk to all the previous kings, and Doom Wars, because that's where the Midnight Angels came from.
Right.
And they were like, and they pushed back a little bit on Midnight on Doom Wars because I think a lot of people think of that as standalone canon. I said, but then I don't have the Midnight. I can't refer to the beginning of the Midnight Angels. Midnight Angels didn't come from Roxane Gay's run.
Right. Yeah.
And it's really funny too, because in that meeting they were like, oh, so she's a fan.
Right.
They were like, oh.
It was like, maybe we got in too deep. We thought you were just gonna write what we told you to write. We didn't know you was gonna do research.
I was having a conversation. Exactly.
I actually read these things.
Exactly. I had them and it was really funny because so once we established all of that, then I was able to get into the book. But honestly, I didn't have that much time to write the book, which was terrifying. So I had to sort of shut everything down. I didn't mean like that. Wait, can you hear me?
I can still hear you. We just get. Oh, now I see you.
You back.
Okay.
You back.
You know what I mean? My camera hates Crowdcast. I said shut everything down. I didn't mean literally, damn it. Okay. So I had to take a step back from everything that I was doing so that I could and that's where I really started working with a lot of assistants and stuff to make it look like I was still online a lot because I only had about 15 weeks to write this book.
Wow.
And people should get a year. I never do this. Do not do this. Ask for more time because I almost
And-
ended up in the hospital. Don't do this.
And look, and she didn't like half-ass it. The writing, if y'all can see, it's still in like 10-point font. Like I would
Right, I know, right?
if they would have
So
said 15 weeks, it would have been like, well, okay, it's gonna be 20 foot.
that's
20
what I
foot
said.
point
Well,
font.
I actually thought maybe
Double
we would have more
space.
pictures, right? So,
Yeah.
but what I did was Marvel also told me we want to make sure there's something in there about the past Black Panthers, and I was like all 16, and they were like, oh, you a real one? Yes, all 16. I was like, challenge accepted. And so, for those of you who don't know, it wasn't Jonathan, even though Ta-Nehisi Coates acknowledges all 16, it was Jonathan Mayberry's run, that one I was just referring to, where he becomes King of the Dead, where Boss bestows upon him the powers of being King of the Dead. And then he now has the Avatar state, where he can sit up and talk to all of the past Black Panthers. There are 16 Black Panthers, 16 previous Kings of Wakanda. 2 were women. One of them was created by Nnedi Okorafor. The other one was created by Ta-Nehisi Coates. And I was like, oh, there's work here. So what I was able to do was, in the history section of the book, create history for all of the kings of Wakanda.
Wow.
And so I was really, really excited about doing that and put them in chronological order. And
Oh,
that
oh.
was work, because somebody might have mentioned somebody in Fantastic Four. Somebody else might have mentioned somebody in Black Panther. Somebody might have mentioned something in Avengers.
Right.
And so, like, I had to sort of do this. And when I talk about red string, this whole wall behind me was like,
Yeah.
but I love that kind of stuff. And so
Right.
I had a ball. And then I said, this is me building the history of the characters in the background so that I can then really make a good story about the Dora. I didn't think they would keep it, and they kept it. So I was like, oh, not only did they keep it, I just got word, and I can't say who, I just got word that part of that canon that I created is going to be used in somebody else's book. And I'm like really, really excited.
Whoa.
Do you feel like now, whenever something happens, if someone wants to argue on the internet, you can like pull out the like, oh, I wrote the canon.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna honestly. I actually said that to somebody. I need to just make a GIF where I go,
yeah.
and then when people start saying stuff, I'm just gonna put the GIF up. Like I'm not gonna argue.
I would be insufferable.
Oh yeah, no. God knew what he was doing. Cause
Listen, okay.
Yeah, so
like I love
be my byline.
I love nothing.
No, but
more
I'm
than
already
right.
getting into it with people online who are like, did Marvel really let you write this book? I'm like, you're not a Marvel fan, because Marvel don't let people just roll around and use their characters. And
Listen, we covered the story. We covered a story the other day, or Friday, about a person who did they did their own Joker origin movie that was like unauthorized. It premiered at a festival. It played one time.
Yep.
And no one's seen
down.
that movie since, because
you
can't do
that.
unofficial licensed content.
Like, you need their approval.
I know some people who do that with like t-shirts and stuff. They're like, look at my black version of Naruto, and I'm like, Tohei coming for you. Like,
be careful.
It's cute, but don't sell it. Like, for instance, like if I want to, and they're not here yet, I'm upset, but there's some bookmarks I've made of some of the artwork in the book. And someone was like, oh, they're gonna let you sell it. I'm like, oh, absolutely not. I'm trying to have them as giveaways for things. I'm not allowed to sell anything. And if I did, I want the artist to get the money. Like, I'm not but canon, I think the interesting thing about writing, again, licensed material is because you're like twice removed from Marvel. Yeah. So I have my editor at the publisher who knows a bit about the Black Panther universe, but he's really looking at my words for syntax and story and things like that. Then she had to send stuff to like her team and then the first level of Marvel, and they're just making sure that I don't say anything that I'm not supposed to say.
Right.
And then you get into line editing, and then you get into, there is one dude that, well, not one dude, but I'm sure there's a dude in every department that is basically has to go through the book and make sure that not only is what you're saying canonically correct, but if you're extending canon, you're not going to crash into somebody else's
Ah,
story or book, because if you
Right.
do, then your title kind of changed. They call it,
right,
a standalone story or a standalone
right.
arc or whatever. So that was fun. I think the only thing that made me crazy was when I first got the book, X of Swords was out, and
Mm.
Vita Ayala had just, the issue that just dropped was Storm going into Wakanda and stealing a
You know,
sword.
the blacks, yes.
But Vita made that sword. That sword had not
Right.
existed for that comic. And I'm going, I have to turn this outline in, because you have to do an outline for each of the book. I'm like,
Mm.
I need to turn this outline in next week. And I called up Vita. Marvel doesn't even know this. Sorry, Marvel. I called up Vita. I was like, I need to know what happens with this sword. Because right
Right,
now she's in exile and she can't come back into Wakanda and she has like no rights
right,
anymore. If that changes, like does she bring it back? That's all I need to know. And can
right,
you give me some more history on this sword? Because I'm putting weapons in here and I need to know.
right.
And you just gave Bashenga a sword that 10,000 BC Black Panther doesn't have. And they
Mm-hmm.
were like, oh, right. All right, well, here's what I did. Good luck with that. I was like, damn it. And then, but it's really funny because there's so many Black people that apparently got hired in 2019, 2020 to write books for Wakanda. And I didn't know it until they started to drop. And then I'm talking to
Oh,
Evie Zaboy, who has her book, her YA book, Okoye to the People. And she's like, well, I wish I'd seen your book while I was writing mine. And then Evan Narciss just dropped the Wakanda Atlas, which is the whole
yeah.
atlas of Wakanda, the topographical
Wow,
stuff, and where
wow.
all and I was like, well, I wish I had yours 6 months ago. So we're all like,
Yeah,
but they don't let you know who's doing, other
yeah. I
stuff.
have a Wakanda cookbook that Karen brought
Yes,
me that
that
I didn't
came
know was out.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
And
then the other thing too, I really have to give a lot of credit to Coach Run because he would have these like appendixes and stuff in the
that
middle of the book, and it was just like, oh, he is fleshing out this history like he like a person that is like topographically like mapping a country. Like it's like, here's the history of this. This is why this land makes sense. This is why when they fought these
exactly.
people, it was so like
That
detailed.
and I
Oh
lived in that. I lived in that for
yeah,
6 months. And when I tell you, there's people that like to criticize his run, and I tell them, I don't care what you think about his story. What
yeah,
that man did for the canon and the world building of Wakanda
right,
surpasses any other author. What they let
yeah,
him do, what's in those back pages, what's in those liner notes, what's in those appendices, that is a lot of the meat and potatoes that I was able to use. And you don't know how many times, this is what I was going to tell you in terms of licensed
mhm,
material. They would come to me and they were like, oh, we don't think you can say that. And I'd be like, oh, I didn't. Ta-Nehisi Coates did. Oh, I
mhm,
didn't. Jonathan Hickman did. And it was really,
mhm.
really funny because the things that I thought that they wouldn't let me say, they were like, oh, yeah, that's fine. But this, and I'm like, I didn't even do that. I didn't even say that. That wasn't even me. It wasn't even there.
Right. That was like the thing that blew me away. I wasn't even ready for Coach Ryan because I was excited, of course. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Coach, then okay.
But he's a writer.
Yeah, I was like, he made it,
Yes.
and I'm reading the book, and I'm like, and you're reading through the dialogue, like that's all
Mhm.
cool and stuff too. Like I love the story, whatever. But it will be like when you get to the end, and there's like 4 more pages, and it's just like a map, and then a history of another country, and then like the history of like the avatars of different like king. You're like, what? Who? What? Like now
Exactly.
I'm
And
reading
the
prose in a comic.
exactly. And then especially when Shuri went to Jalia and was walking the plains with the ancestors,
Yes.
all those little fables, I'm like, y'all don't understand what he did here. Y'all have no
Right.
idea. Y'all don't understand the levels to this. And so his people, I think years from now, are going to come back and go, just like people now look back at the 80s X-Men with a
Yes.
fine-tooth comb and look at all they're going to do that years from now.
I think so
Because,
too.
but yeah, so that was what it was like. It was like really, the first part of this book really for me was a thesis. It was like, I
Right.
have to do a thesis on Wakanda to set the
Mm,
background. And if you look in the beginning, in the contents,
mhm.
the book is broken up into 5 tenets. So tradition, honor, strength, courage, compassion. And then I talk about like the initiation trials. So what the book actually is, and I'm actually a little bit sad about this, there is a page that got left out just because I wrote too much stuff. But there was a page that had to be sacrificed that I'm hoping will be able to be in a deluxe edition. I don't know if I'm getting a deluxe edition, but y'all keep buying the book. I can get a deluxe edition.
Okay, let's go.
It is Okoye basically explaining at the end of remember at the end of the intergalactic saga, basically, I'll call it, when he knows who he is, he's back. We have that. Everybody's back in Wakanda. All versions of Killmonger are gone, and but there's been so much lost. So I basically had a moment where Okoye was like, "We have to start the school again." Like in the middle of that, remember, World of Wakanda took place in the middle of a lot of what Ta-Nehisi Coates was writing, and they lost the head of their school. The Dora Milaje lost the head of their school. So, and that was something that Roxane Gay wrote. So this book takes place like right after that. Okoye is like, we don't just have people who could possibly initiate, but we got Wakanda Prime, we got Wakanda in space, we got people that identify as female. Like there are people that are not human that are now Wakandans. Like we need to start this school again. And what the book is a found tome. So basically every Dora, as she goes through the school, everyone gets a journal, and everybody can make notes in their journal and things like that. And then when they graduate, they hand that journal back to someone who's just becoming a Dora in the school. So that is what this is. It is it's a journal that was found. One of the last journals that was found by somebody who has I think I said that she died during the Namor floods. But again, this is my backstory. You're not going to see this in the book. This is the page that got missing. That had to come out. But the point is, she's using this one, and she said, okay, so now we have new Dora. We've got all kinds of different people that we need to. I want to start the school again, but I want to make sure that we're codifying as much as possible. So it's a journal. And so what you'll see is every chapter has a series of entries, and they're all written by different Dora. And then other people will write stuff in the margins. So it's not always a Dora. Zara Ravi's in there. Queen Shuri is in there. As Aja Dana, there's all these different people who contributed to the book, which was helpful for me because the publisher was really nervous about where I was going to place it because they didn't want to run into trouble with on the comic book end. Like I didn't know any of the new Black Panther that was coming out this year. I didn't know about any of that. Like all that was in the works, but we don't have time to go research all that. You just got to stay in your lane and do what you do. And I said, if we make this entries from different people and different time periods, then I can include a chapter from the headmistress of the school that passed away. I can include past comments about Nakia, even though she's dead in every iteration in the comics. I can include things of Shuri before she walked the plains of Jaldia and became practically a goddess. And, I can include things all over the place. Queen Ramonda, everybody has something to say in this book. So I was very excited about that. And then the other thing was once I got the license, the canon part down, then I just sort of went to town and I was like, I'm just going to go for it. And I'm going to let them tell me like, okay, you can't do that.
Right. Yeah, I feel you. Like,
you
and then, two things. One, I forgot to do my basic job up front, which is because I forget. I'm a nerd. I read all this shit, but some of y'all probably don't. So some, I just realized as we were getting into weeds, I was like, oh yeah. So the Dora Milaje is the adorned ones, I believe is a translation, but it's essentially like the military defense like almost like Secret Service division of Wakanda. It's all women. It's army of just badass warriors. You've seen them in all these like different iterations in the movies. Roxane Gay wrote a run in the comics that was specifically about like the Dora Milaje and like their thing, or their like the group as a whole. Also, can you tell people about the Midnight Angels and specifically what they are? Because like I'm realizing as we're going through that I'm just like, oh girl, and then remember, and now I'm like,
nobody else knows what you're talking about. Okay, so you are
my mama probably like who?
So the Dora Milaje were originally created in the comics by Christopher Priest, and yes, they were the first time you saw them. They were only 2 or 3 of them, and it was really Okoye and Nika, but they I'm sorry, Nakia, and so they were basically the bodyguards of the king when he came to this country. So you only saw 2 at first in the comics, and then you started to see more and more as more comics were created. And then Roxane Gay's run was actually about the Dora Milaje and the school and what was going on during paralleling the Ta-Nehisi Coates run of all of the wars and things that were happening with Namor and Doom and everybody else. So they are, as a whole, they are a military unit. They are not the military. Wakanda has its own military. They also have a all-male military. The Hattusilims, at the time period that this book was written, the Hattusilims had sort of been infiltrated, so they were not trusted. So there's really not any Hattusilims in my book, because I didn't feel like explaining the difference between the two as we kept through. So, and it's about the Dora Milaje. So, there's a I would say a subsidiary, a smaller group within the Dora Milaje called the Midnight Angels. And when they were introduced in Doom Wars, they're basically the Wetworks division. They're the cleanup crew. Like you want them dead, you call them Midnight Angels. And they get the higher tactical gear. They get all the stealth stuff first, and then some of it will, trickle throughout the rest of the Dora Milaje. But that was also what was important to me in the book, because I think people think there's like 4 or 5 of them.
Right.
And the 4 or 5 that you see, I classify as the royal division, because they are the ones that are closest to the king. But everybody who wants to become a Dora does not become a Dora. Right. Everybody who tries to train doesn't always make it, doesn't always graduate to become a Dora. But the ones that do, who's flying the plane? Who's maintaining the plane? Who's maintaining the weaponry? You're not going to have some random person maintaining the plane that's for a secret group of. So now you have an aeronautics division. You know what I mean? So I started coming up with the different divisions that would do different things. Because if you remember, and again, I'm going back to Doom Wars, when they were fighting Doom in that book, that T'Challa initiated over like 500 Dora.
Right.
So I was like, okay, so how'd that happen? Where'd they come from? The concept of the Dora Milaje has always been that these badass bald black women that are there to fight for T'Challa. They were called the Adored Ones. This is something that Christopher Priest came up with, and it's really funny because it's something that I ran into also with Marvel. They were like, we just want to make sure that there's no child brides. I'm like, I don't understand where that question came from. There were never a child bride. Who said there was a child bride? They were like, well, in Christopher Priest's run, I was like, okay, so let's wind that back. If y'all remember Christopher Priest's run, everybody considers the definitive Black Panther, because before that, he was really just like the diversity hire in the Avengers.
Right.
And so when they gave him his own story, they said Christopher Priest didn't think white people would buy a comic book with a black character, so black lead. So he created Everett Ross, like the bumbling FBI agent, to sort of be the audience, to say, I'm in charge of making sure the king gets to what he's got to do today. And he would just say stuff off the top of his head because he didn't know what he was looking at.
Right.
And we will debate at another time what Priest thought when he did this, but Ross was sort of lusting after the Dora, and he would regularly say, like, oh my God, I'm going to go to jail because I'm lusting after these high school girls.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And so that's where they got in their head. Everybody got in their head that these were teenage brides of the king, because the concept was any Dora would be someone he could marry.
Right.
He never married that. They were never, and the one time that in Priest's run, when Black Panther did like make out with Nakia, he was under Mephisto's control. So the interesting thing about that is that in the meeting that I was having, I can't tell you everything that happened in the meeting. I'm just trying to think of what I can't say. But I can say this. I remember saying to them, this is not a problem. And they were like, why? I'm like, because T'Challa never said they were teenagers.
Right.
Ross did. And they were like,
Right.
well, that's a problem. I said, no, it isn't. Have you ever met a black woman who doesn't look her age? He was wrong.
Right.
Case closed.
Right.
It's not a problem. It's a non-issue. It's a non-issue.
Brilliant.
And they were like, how are you going to address it? I'm like, I'll probably address it in the margins. I'm really not going to make a big deal out of this. Because even though they might be 17 or 18 when they come into the school, you have to train for 7 years to become a Dora.
Right.
So you're not looking at anybody that's younger than 24 years old.
Right. Nah, that's brilliant, because that's definitely one of those things where it's like a nerdy detail that people could obsess over. And I think you being a nerd, you being in the world of like the community, it's like you have to prepare almost like a legal dissertation.
That's why I said it was like a dissertation. I saw somebody in the comments said the Woman King to Homie Warrior is the real life inspiration for the Dora Milaje too, right? Yes and no. Christopher Priest wasn't thinking anything about the Dahomey Warriors when he created them in the comics years ago. He really wasn't. The Dahomey Warriors were inspiration for the movie. And the Dahomey Warriors were inspiration when we got to Ta-Nehisi Coates' run. You saw more of that. But Christopher Priest was not thinking of the... Trust me, go look at how they're dressed.
Yeah.
Trust me. They are not...
I remember
they were not considered.
So the way that I came to the Black Panther canon, because like it was one of those things where it was always off and on when it was like officially coming out, but I like really didn't dedicate like sitting down and reading it until I got to Coates, and then I read it and I was like, oh my god, now he's, because that's the other thing, Coates uses everything that was canon before. Like it, like even though it feels jarring that it's so different from these other books, it's like it's like he'll bring up some obscure shit. You're like, wait, that happened? And so I would go.
Him and Jonathan Hickman. If I ever meet either one of them, I'm gonna be like, you owe me a drink.
How does your brain work? How does your fucking brain work?
But Hickman, I mean, anybody who's even read any of the X-Men runs.
Yeah, Hickman
I'm convinced that Hickman is on the spectrum, and I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I'm saying that because I believe people who are on the spectrum use 90% more of their brain than the rest of us. Yeah, because he has thought out 30 years of a story way before even Incursions. When he came up with that, I was like,
yes. There was when he first started writing the X-Men again, this is complete tangent, I promise it won't take long, but when he started writing the X-Men again, he wrote this book from the perspective of like Moria McTaggart. And it was so I had to read it like 3 times. I was like, wait, what? She was doing what? So her power is this? She had powers? What the, like, and it can.
But he was brilliant because it was brilliant, and I was really, really inspired by stuff like that. I'm glad you said that, because I was really inspired by stuff like that. Because I even had that a few times with my editors. But how? And I'm like, show me where they didn't do that.
Right.
Prove to me that they weren't in the room when that happened. Right. And they were like, you know what? We can't. I'm like, it stays. So that's the beauty of it, because like that was when I was looking at his book. It's like the beauty of it is that it still folds into everything that came before it. So like that, because I think, if you just asked a random person like write a book, like we all could be like, oh yeah, man, and then like T'Challa flew into the sun, and then he threw like it's like, well, that he can't do that. Where's this coming from? It's like, oh, I just thought I could make up anything. I didn't know I had. So it's like, to me, the hard part would be folding it in, but not just folding it in, you're creating new stuff and then saying this can be a thing that happened that we just didn't see. But I did that a lot. I think Reginald Hudlin's run, which was about T'Chaka's father, Azuri.
Yeah.
And when the Avengers came to visit, and they were like, there wasn't even the Avengers. It was actually just Steve Rogers and the his World War II crew, and they showed up, and he's like, you can't kill people. He's like, you not at home. I don't know who you think you're talking to.
It's my crib.
Right. But remember there were women, there were Dora with him then.
Yep.
I made one of those Dora, the younger version of the Dora that started the school that was in World of Wakanda.
See,
So that's
yeah,
what I mean by like connecting these threads. Like, because
yeah,
this is the thing. As a Black woman, I'm just used to this. Like, we're always in the room and
right.
nobody sees us.
Right.
So, but that's actually the Dora Milaje's power.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And somebody in the chat said, like, oh my God, they're in training for 7 years. Yes, because when they graduate, because they're coming from wherever they're coming from, but they haven't been trained. They haven't been trained in
Right.
Wakandan weaponry. They have to speak multiple African languages. Then they have to learn the languages of the diaspora. So in Wakanda, this is something that I did have to have a discussion about, because the whole speaking Zulu Xhosa thing was sort of more of the movie than the book, because it used to be Hausa. So in the comics now, in Wakanda, the languages spoken are Hausa, Swahili, Xhosa, Yoruba, and Zulu. But if the Igbo come from all over, not just Wakanda, Africa, and another run that you need to read is Nnedi Okorafor's Black Panther run, because she made it Pan-African. She made it more, okay, but what happens to the people in the mute? She created the mute zone. Right. The group of people that are anti-technology, that are just trying to live off the land and live their lives. She created this whole universe of more talking from the people's perspective, not just getting out of the kingdom. Yeah. Also going more into the lore of the kings and queens. She created one of the Black Panther queens, Queen Turkana is her creation. So it's an interesting thing to be able to like do this and build it. But at the same time, I don't think it hit me until like this week, like, oh, like somebody could write, like, this is canon. Like somebody could take this book and then go write a comic. Yeah. You know, and I don't think it really hit me right away.
You might be, you now gonna be the one getting that phone call, like, hey, what happened to this? You know, like, you know, you were the one that was going, what happened to the sword? Now you're gonna be the person. Someone's like, hey, so if she was at this meeting, does that mean I can put her in this place? You know, that's beautiful.
It was. I think I hope I was able. I mean, I didn't do what Ta-Nehisi's coach did, but I really hope that I did push canon a little bit. The only thing, it's just really, really interesting being an African American woman writing about a fictional African country that was created by white men. Right. Because certain discussions, I'm like, you can't say that. Right. I don't have enough time to explain why you can't say that, but you can't say that. Right. And now I've done it up like they kind of trust me, but I'm like, whatever you do on social media, do not say that. Right. Yeah. Right. Like, for the love of God. Right. And there's just certain things like I've never been able to get over the fact that nobody in Wakanda has a last name. It just makes me crazy, especially because the real life folks I know from the continent rather have like 7 names. Right. So it's like, and it bothers me because we know Thor Odinson's entire line. Right. Yeah. We know Loki's entire line. We know Loki's child who turned into a horse, their names. Like, we don't know. That's the part that bothers me. But like, it's little things. I like when characters don't have a last name in TV shows and movies. Yes. I always make the same joke, but it's always like, because you know, on social media, I don't want to spoil anything. So like, I'll come out of Avengers Infinity War and be like, yo, just finished Infinity War. It was so great. And I had no idea Thanos' last name is Jenkins. That's crazy. Thanos Jenkins. We all said Thanos Jenkins. Like, I just like, that is the best to me. It's like,
he used seasoning in his soup.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I noticed one time too, you can check his IMDb page. There's a running joke that we have. But Jamin Hansu, it's like this dude will only play characters with no last name.
And we love it. We absolutely love it. He's like, don't break the tradition.
Djimon Hounsou is the hardest working superhero film actor.
Yes.
And people don't know it. He shows up as characters that don't have it, and not just a last name. They don't
Right.
even have legs. They don't have
Right. And what's wild to me is like, because it's in every there's very few of his characters that have like a full name, but I just keep imagining being in the casting call or whatever auditions for a character with one name, and then Djimon walks in. You can get up and leave. He's gonna get
just
it.
go.
That's his role.
It's over. It's over.
He starts turning down names. They're like, this person got a history. This is their first and last name. I don't want that role.
Yeah,
I think too much information.
I think he goes into the casting. They're like, okay, so we thinking his last name is Sutherland, and he's like, no, I don't need a last name. First of all,
name only.
Get rid of that. I'm just gonna go by Don. Now let's go ahead.
I'm just gonna go by Don.
Yeah, I don't need. That's working with too much. You don't need a history. Is it training? I know it's a training manual and a history, and it's written from the perspective of like iconic characters, Okoye and Queen Ramonda and stuff. But do you get to talk about like their personal lives at all, or is it just all because I mean I can understand why that wouldn't come up because it's a training manual, or was that something you even wanted to explore?
Yes and no. Remember I told you people make notes in the margins. So sometimes stuff like, for instance, like Io and Anika, they have a little mini argument because they're a couple. But it's really more about and you'll infer that things have happened in someone's life from some of the comments that are made, and some not even in the margins, just some of the entries that are made. Like there's a very personal account from Okoye talking about the Dora that died during Doom War training, because it was the first time she ever saw Dora die, not on the battlefield, but in training. And it just cut her to the core. She's like, I never wanted to see that, but I knew what we were up against. So there is, and the other thing that was really, really, and Karen, I think you can relate to this. I just wanted the most important chapter to me, or section to me in here, was compassion, because I think people just keep they're bald women who fight people, and yes, I had a ball doing the martial arts sections. I had a ball coming up with all the weapons, because I'm tired of people thinking they just run around with 2 spears and nothing else. It makes me crazy. It makes me bananas. But I wanted, what happens when the war's over? How do you come down? They don't come down and go home to their husband and their kids. They come down and they go back to, it's almost like nuns. Like they're living together in a compound. Like, how do you come down?
How do you deal with mental health? How do you, like, I'm not trying to be funny. How do you deal with PTSD? How do you like it's a lot behind that. And also, I'm glad you did touch on that thing, because I think sometimes people just, like you said, they look at them doing all this stuff, but particularly Black women, we are not looked upon with compassion sometimes, or looked like we have compassion. Like sometimes we're not presented in these manners like we're a full-fledged person sometimes. And it's like everything about us is always strong. Okay, cool. But we are also, or we should also, be allowed to break, be allowed to be depressed, be allowed to feel these range of emotions like other human beings. I think sometimes these things are stripped away from us. And so I'm glad you did do that, because that is a part sometimes that I think can be overlooked. And it would not be surprising if the things that you wrote are picked up by somebody else and move on. Something else I want to say, and I don't know if you really thought about this, but I actually commend you for doing this, because now you are going to be the cornerstone for some little Black girl that's going to read this book one day, and they're going to be like, you know what? If she can do this, I can too. And
thank you so much. I think of my niece. I think of 2 little girls when I wrote this book. My niece, who's 4, who's going to grow up and tell me off. And she's just like a mini me, and it makes my brother so mad because even when I'm around her, people think she's my kid. I'm like, I'm sorry. She's just strong. You're the only one who had a girl. She came out like me. I'm sorry. And there was a girl that was, I think everybody probably seen it by now. You know, at Disney World, how they have the show, the Dora Milaje show now, where they come out, and that was making the rounds on social media, and it was a little Black girl that was sitting there, and she was watching them. She's reciting the mantras. And by the way, those are the same mantras in the book. That's where I got it from. Those 5 tenets are the same ones that they are quoting. And I said, you know what? That little girl did it for me. Yes, that little girl. And I said, I'm writing the book for her, and I'm writing the book for my niece. And even if they don't become writers, I want them to at least become inspired, because there are quotes in here from all of the women. Every chapter has a quote. Well, every chapter also has amazing art by Sheba Maya at the top of it. But there's always a quote in here, quotes in each chapter or section header, I should say. And one of my, I thought my camera went out again. I was like, damn it. Yes, that little girl. That's her. That little girl. I never saw her face. I couldn't identify her on the street. But there is at the start of the compassion section, there is a line that says, it's not enough. Queen Ramona said this in Ta-Nehisi Coates' run. It's not enough to be the sword. You must be the intelligence behind it. So the reason why they train for 7 years is they don't just go out there and fight.
Right.
So I was thinking of little moments, like for instance, even in the Black Panther movie, when Okoye was talking to T'Challa and Ross was there, and he was like, does she speak English? And she said, if she chooses to. And I thought, how many languages does she speak?
A lot.
To be an intelligence officer that close to T'Challa, how many does she speak? To be able to warn him of something. And even Nakia, who they were like in Italy or Germany or something. And remember she was in Korea? She knew Korean. I was like, how many do they learn? And then I was also inspired by something. I mean, it was actually almost after the book had been turned in, but I was really excited because I was like, oh, I did something like this. Remember in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, when Io shows up and you're seeing the flashbacks to her and White Wolf, aka
Bucky
Barnes. Yeah. And he's fighting his programming. And she was like, no, you have this. You got this. And she's talking him through it. And I was trying to figure out how she learned to deprogram somebody. How did she learn that?
Right.
How did you? So that was also when we get to the fighting section, the strength section, it's not all physical.
Right.
Because I don't know how, your physical prowess is nothing to an empath, nothing to Professor X, nothing to Phoenix. So how you fighting, and that even happened in Ta-Nehisi Coates' run when they got a hold of Asira.
Yep.
Who, by the way, is Queen Divine Justice, for those of you who know the comics.
Wow.
Asira, that's Queen Divine Justice from back in the day.
Yeah, I had got lost when we were talking earlier, but yeah, that was the thing. I went back to read Christopher Priest's run, and I went back and read a bunch of this old stuff, and so it honestly it made me even have a bigger appreciation for Coates, because like a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, he cleaned a lot of that up.
Yeah.
I'll say he cleaned a lot of that up.
The child bride thing and all that, and T'Challa almost being like some quote unquote James Bondish, he's so cool, that was he comes to Brooklyn and he's just so cool, I love the way that is that he was able to incorporate that stuff, but also cherry pick the good and the bad and stuff. But yeah, you made me think about that when you brought up the child bride thing, and I was like, yo, I did that jarred me when I read it, but then I'm like, oh, you figured out how to clean it up. You got your coats on, and now I don't have to feel bad. I could be like, oh, that white man, he don't know that. Black don't crack. Leave it alone. He don't know.
And honestly, and I have a little note in there. It's something about going undercover. I don't even remember where I wrote it, but it's in the book somewhere where it's a note about going undercover, stealth work, whatever, because intelligence is 90% of really infiltration. So people think people just running in, and it's like, no. And then it's a conversation that Okoye has in the margins. Like, yeah, I remember when I was with T'Challa in New York at one of my earliest assignments, someone thought I was like 16 years old. You know, and they were like, and so it's like just an offhanded kind. That's what I told them. Like, that's the only way I'm addressing it. I'm not giving you this is why we are against. No, it's in your heads that we are. And also the concept of Black women being little Black girls being considered women.
Right.
But white girls can just be girls.
Right.
So I was like, I'm not going to give a whole chapter to this because it's really your problem that you think that we are not children.
And it's so very Wakandan that is how they would think of it. They wouldn't be like I feel like as American Black people, sometimes we feel like we need to like prove, some of us feel like we need to like prove some shit to some white people. Like, no, but if you know, and I feel like the thing I like about the
Wakandans, and that's because that's what our parents did and our grandparents did.
Right. And I love the thing I liked about Wakandans and I think why it's so attractive to a lot of Black Americans as the lore and the country and all this is that they're very much like, we don't need to prove shit to you.
Exactly.
If anything, you should prove something to us. And we're not taking the time to explain it because we don't feel that it's even worth explaining to you. We know our worth.
And honestly, that is a discussion I had a lot about the book. They were like, we think this should be explained. And I was like, why? Because if I grew up in an African country and I did not ever have to explain myself, why would I explain this? Like, even something else that didn't go through was like 10,000 BC Black Panther, like when they did the prehistoric Avengers or whatever. And I'm like, y'all just messed me up with that, because if he saw vibranium, why wouldn't anybody? Now I got to write another backstory. Damn it.
Right.
So, but I didn't call him 10,000 BC Black Panther. And they're like, why? I said, because they in Wakanda would not have a concept of BC.
Right.
That is a European concept.
Right.
If you're looking at as far back, so we would have called, they would have had their own calendar. So they would have called him like 12,000.
Yeah, exactly.
12,000 before Bashenga or something. You know, 12,000 BB.
Right.
You know, and but they wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me do that because, and again, that's where I would find the fence. So I usually hit the fence when I was trying to change the name of existing canon. Like, for instance, I was trying to call, I can't remember what I was calling him, but something else that I did, I tried to make this also as Pan-African as possible. So I tried to put, and again, I want everybody to understand what I'm saying. The book can be read by everybody.
Right.
But there's levels. So if you just know so you've just seen the movies, there's something in there for you. There's a lot of really cool information.
Right.
If you've got kids who are like, oh, I want to know more about the women and the weapons and what they wore, like, and I fought to get Aletha Martinez to draw some work on this book. There's about 6 or 7 artists. I didn't get to choose them all. I'm going to tell you that right now. I only got to choose 3. But I was like, I need Aletha, because Aletha created the original outfits for the Dora, and she knows what they look like. Like, I got to give my cosplay girl something.
Yes.
I got to give my cosplayers something to
come on, Comic-Con. Let's go.
Exactly. So
we around the corner.
I've got to give people who want to be a part of this something to latch onto. So there's something in here for everybody. But because I'm a Black woman on the internet who happens to write about comics, I know the dudes who write comics are coming for me. So that's why I was like, yeah, I got you. I got your deep cuts right here. On page 72. You know what I mean? I got you. So
how has that been online? Like, I mean, the book just came out, so it hasn't been in a lot of hands just yet to even have like, but it sounds like
coming.
You already
I'm sure they're coming. Well, I mean, one thing I will say is, for those of you who bought the book and pre-ordered the book and are getting them, thank you. Anybody who has the book, please go to Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or Goodreads or something and leave a review, because that also really, really helps the book. And I have had more people argue with me that haven't bought the book just because they want the likes and the follows. So I have a dude that the day the book dropped tried to give me the entire litany and history of Black Panther. And he's like, I really would like to see this in the book. I said, I really would like to see you buy the book.
Hello.
Oh man.
And then I had somebody else on TikTok. I've regularly for TikTok on TikTok for months. I've had several dudes who were like, "She didn't really write this book. She's making this shit up. I've never heard of her. Excuse my French. Sorry. I've never heard of her. Who is she? I don't know you." And I'm like, "What are you, 19? I was reading Black Panther when you were a thought. Go to bed.
Right.
I'm not having this discussion with you." But that's the other thing. I don't do a lot of fighting on social media.
Not worth it.
No, but people get very confused when they meet me because they're like, "Oh my God, she seems so nice." I'm like, "Yeah, but you shouldn't have said that on Friday, on Tuesday."
Yeah, I remember everything.
Yeah, like, so you seem to have a problem with Black women in comics? Say that to my face right here.
Yeah.
Words mean
people like doing this, and I like doing this. I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for New York Comic Con where people. So I have had a few people at I had one guy at one of the signings go, "I really hope this is good because I don't want to be disappointed." I'm like, "Did you pay for it?" He's like, "Yeah." I said, "Have the day you deserve." You bought it. I got you. So I don't care.
And you made me think of something earlier when you brought up this is a black nation conceived by white men and written by, but it's also up until recently almost been exclusively written by men. So to have women's perspectives, that's what I think I liked about the Roxane Gay run. I think,
and honestly, and I hate to say it, I really do. Some of my biggest supporters are white men, white men and Black women. The people that are coming for me left and right are Black men.
Oh no,
it's sad, but I'm used to it. That's a Tuesday on Twitter.
Well, there's an entitlement and an ownership that comes with Black dudes and Black Panther feeling like it's our domain, and even the original writing, the way Christopher Priest wrote the Dora Milaje, and I'm not trying to knock these people, but as somebody that didn't read it until 2020 or whatever,
it was a different time.
To me oh, this is what a dude would think was cool when he wrote this in whatever year. And because one of the things I liked about Coates' run and Roxane Gay's run is how much the Dora challenged T'Challa and the crown and the royalty, and not just challenge him as a man, but I mean challenge him as as an entity, as a king, as a quote unquote ruler, as that kind of thing, where it's they're closer to the people.
And it is, and I think the thing that people miss, and this is how I know when the people who are arguing me about the very thing that you're talking about don't read comics, because Nnedi Okorafor's run and Jonathan Mayberry's run and Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four thing in Wakanda all came before Coates. And they had Shuri challenge her brother and bring the Dora with her. She was the one to say to him, "I'm sorry, is that Namor?
Right.
Are you talking to the Namor that flooded and killed my people? Our people?
Right.
Your cousins?"
So
no. And so it was I have a vote of no confidence in our king.
Yes.
We're done. She's like, "I'm sorry, brother. We're done. I can't go with you on this."
Yes.
This man killed our people. And then the Dora dropped their swords.
Right. Yes.
They didn't do it till Shuri did it. And so there was precedence. People think that Roxane Gay came out the gate with that. I'm sure she had to have a conversation with Marvel too when they were like, "Well, yeah, they've done it before." But so it's just people pick and choose what they want to fight you on or whatever. And so I've had that happen to me a couple of times. "Oh, what's your favorite Black Panther run?" And I'm like, "Jason Aaron, see Wakanda and die." And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Right." And here's the thing. I am not one of those people, and I've said it. I don't like it when people do the "what's your comic book requisite." Everybody is welcome. Everybody's welcome in my feed. Everybody's welcome in my space, my Discord. Everybody's welcome. The moment you gatekeep, I don't tolerate that. But people come from me like that, thinking, "Oh, and I stop them. I'm like, I need you're gonna quit immediately." And then I think the only other thing I've had is some dudes that are like, just "Oh, another Marvel book that's anti-men or something like that." And I don't even think those people read comics. I think that was an Eidos dude.
Right. That completely makes sense. It's something that and not to get off topic, but I want to go back to when you were talking about like the compassion, and we was talking about the mental health. You actually making my mind tick. People, and somebody was saying 7 years. I was like, yes, because you have to think these Dormilla J have actually dealt with people from all walks of life. So they are training these young women to deal with racism. They're training them to deal with people that are 3 and 4 and 5 times their size. They like and shit like that. They're training them to have the mental capacity if you get caught. They're training them to not easily get your mind broken.
Exactly.
They're training them to actually, withstand pain. They're training them.
And they're also training them, like Asira is in this book too. And she has to explain to some of them, like, y'all didn't live in America, so you don't know.
Right.
Like, she's like, so because some of them are like, I don't understand why this is a problem. And she's like, because you haven't seen the diaspora, you've only lived here.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd be like, trust me, in New York, this is a problem. Or in, if you go down south, this is a problem. And because there's a piece where they tell you, like, even outside of the US and Africa, you go to the Middle East, you're going to have your head covered in certain places. So, but it doesn't mean that your burqa can't have vibranium shielding. It doesn't mean, you know what I mean? Like, and there are some Dora who can't cut their hair, who have to keep their head covered. And we do have outfits for them. We got you. Some of you can't get tattoos. We understand that for religious or whatever, but there's ink that is not visible that we can give you. Like, there are things that I try, and being able to infiltrate and see, because also, like I said, there's a lot of reconnaissance. The other thing I was able to also put in the book was the entire Salema, and I don't know, that's a deep cut. They were the original Wetworks team, men and women, that were created by T'Chaka. So actually, they might have been created by his father, but they are basically sleeper cells. You don't know who they are. If you see them, it's too late. Right. They don't even know who each other is. So when you get inducted into this super secret society of assassins for Wakanda, this is how people get taken out overseas. Like, somebody's walking around talking about Wakanda, they gotta go. Okay. Right. And then they're gone. We don't ask questions. We don't know how that happened, but and Evan Narciss wrote a little bit about them in his run, and they've been written about, but I was able to put 1 or 2 in this book, and it was really funny because there's a lot of stuff like, y'all have too many discussions. I don't understand why we just don't take them out. It's like, okay, you can't kill everybody. Hang
on. Who are your inspirations that, like, helped influence like what you set out to accomplish with the book?
Definitely just, I wanted to give something to just about all of the writers. Like I said, Christopher Priest, Jonathan Hickman, Jonathan Mayberry, Jason Aaron, Roxane Gay, and even the artists like Aletha Martinez and, Afua Richardson and a bunch of different people. I wanted to be able to highlight things that they've done. Reginald Hudlin, of course. And there are parts of the book that there's one part of the book that's actually very close to me, and it's it has to do with that mental part. And it's sort of like, there's a section about like recovery and visual motor rehearsal and things like that. And not many people know this, but I'm a stroke survivor. And so I did a lot of work on, I lost the ability to move the left side of my body for about 6 months. And so, or move it properly, I should say. I can move it, but I look drunk. I had a fantastic physical therapist that was into visual motor rehearsal and things like that, and how much your brain controls your body. So he would always give me mental stuff to do before I went to sleep. And I would wake up in the morning and it was like, whoa, it worked. I can move my finger, things like that. Right. And so there were certain things that just from my own life, I was able to pull from. And then I know a lot of people, different people from across the diaspora. And I was able to tap into a lot of their like my mother's not from this country, she's from Bermuda, but that's not the same as Haiti. That's not the same as Nigeria. That's not the same as, South Africa. So I was able to really tap into a lot of the stories and the culture I heard there from different people. Even that concept of passing things down to younger, I don't know. I feel like that's an African thing. I feel like that's an African American thing. But in my family, I'm the oldest. I'm the only girl. And so if my little brothers did anything and broke something, I would catch it.
Right.
And that's just how I know my boyfriend rolls like that. Like you had younger brothers, something goes wrong while you on watch, you catching it.
Right.
And so that's kind of how it works with the Kanwata. The Kanwata is that's a term for little sister. And so if you are a Kanwata Dora, that means you're a little sister and you have to speak to your Iya Dora, who are the mothers, the older ones, or your older Kanwata. But the point is you follow directions. But at the same time, there's rules to this shit.
Right.
Like any of you older ones start abusing power, we coming for you.
Right.
Any of you younger ones try to thwart that power. Because remember, they've dealt with a loss. They've dealt with the younger Dora, a Dora killing an older Dora.
Right.
They're like, that's never happening on our watch again, ever. So there's certain things that we're putting this in. So yeah, I just was, first of all, I'm just really proud that they let me do half the stuff I was able to do.
Yeah.
And then I got the biggest compliment from that remember I told you there's that last person at Marvel that has to make sure that everything matches all of the things.
Yeah.
And he approved everything. And then he sent me a personal email. I'm not allowed to divulge who it is, but he sent me a personal email and he said, "This is the best history of Wakanda I've ever read. You should be very proud." And I was like, I was a mess. I was a mess.
I know.
And now nobody can tell me anything. You know what I mean?
Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if my name get etched in stone anywhere associated on the on the bottom of the shoe of the mouse house, you ain't gonna be able to tell me
nothing. Tell me nothing. So I've seen a couple people in the comments ask if this has anything to do with the movie. My book was not. I don't know anything about Wakanda Forever. I do know that. Listen, I don't know what gets to Ryan Coogler. If I find out that he saw some of this and some of this is in the movie, I will be the first person to burst into tears. But I have no idea. I don't know what's going on. So many people ask me, like, is this going to be the basis of the TV show? I'm like, I have no idea.
Right.
So I literally wrote this based on the comics. I'm going to see the movie just like the rest of y'all. I know it's going to be amazing. This is not a prerequisite. We talked a lot about comics here because I know me and Rod are huge comic book geeks.
Yeah.
But you don't have to have known all the comics to read the book.
Yeah. This is absolutely the nerdiest episode I'm pretty sure we've ever done. Like I already know I'm gonna get some of the feedback just gonna be like, I don't know what y'all was talking about, but I'm just so happy for all y'all because y'all was
Black woman. I bought the book. I don't know what the book is. I know my cousin, brother, son.
And here's the thing.
For them.
Exactly. And I do want to say it is considered a YA book. So if you have a child that, reads YA books or you read YA books, there's no sex. There's a little bit of violence, but it's not like I'm explaining somebody getting their head chopped off, their entrails pouring out, nothing like that. The two things that really excited me about the book also were the fighting styles. I'm an old school martial arts fan, getting up watching,
Saturday
Enter
morning.
the Wu-Tang on Sunday morning.
Come on.
And they let me kind of go nuts with that. But I loved how, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, they would have done like, wushu and taekwondo. I'm like, yes, but they probably also would have done Angolan and capoeira, and they would have done Nguni stick fighting, and there's Haitian machete, and so I was tried to also make sure that there was fighting styles from the African diaspora. And something, Karen, you said that was very interesting was women of different walks of life and stuff. Two things I was really proud of is it's pretty well known in the comics. I don't think a lot of people know this, but the there are I don't think it's really giving it away. Is it giving away? Like everybody knows M'Baku and his tribe are supposed to be Igbo, right? Does everybody know that?
I don't know if it's giving it away, but yeah,
okay, so I feel like it's in the comments
say.
somewhere, but yeah. So the Jabari tribe are supposed to be Igbo. So there's a character in the book, I'm not gonna say, you'll find her, who's Igbo, who decides to become Adora.
Wow.
There's a deep cut in there too for other comic book creators, but she decides to become Adora, and she's tiny. She's like 5'2", and there's a bunch of other things. She speaks Igbo, not Yoruba, not Swahili, not Xhosa. She lives in the mountains where it's cold. Down in the city, it's hot as hell. She's like, what is happening?
Right.
And on top of everything else, like standard issue Spear is like twice her size. She's just a tiny person. She's 5'2". She's little. She's, Quentin Princeton is as Adora. As Adora. And so I had to change her fighting style. She had to be right. Ground. So that she did more of an Indonesian Pangkat Silat, like where they're low the ground. Like anybody who watches John Wick has seen them. Like the Indonesian or the Raid Redemption.
Yes,
that's all Pangkat Silat
to the ground, right?
And you know how they have that tiny curved knife because it's quick because she's little.
Right.
So she'll like take you down. She'll get your legs and then you're down.
Yeah.
So, but it was just like, but that was a part of the story that was about, how do I do this? I'm like really foreign here. Like, I don't speak the language. I'm not the same height. I'm not the same strength, and she had to figure out how to get through. And that's another, like, that's a personal story, but it's not necessarily a character that you've met before. And the other thing that I'm hugely proud of is the fact that they let me write the origin of the Dora Milaje, like who came up with it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because whenever I bring that up, people go, Christopher Priest. And I'm like, in world, universe, not the author.
Right.
And Marvel released this information like 6 months ago. I'm like, I wanted to release that with the book, but all right. But
that's low key kind of good, right? Because that means they were excited, they were pleased, like they. It's that thing where like they couldn't wait to show it. Like, look, y'all.
And I did a great interview with Charles Pulliam of The Verge all about this, but I made Nahanda the creator of the Dora Milaje, and you can read the story on Marvel right now, but you can. It's also obviously in the book. If you Google what does it take to become a Dora Milaje, it takes you right to the page. And I took it from a real life story, and that is from Ta-Nehisi Coates, basically. So you know how the Wakandans have gods. So the gods they call the Wakanda gods Orisha. Orisha is a Yoruba word that's usually used for gods, but the gods of Wakanda cover the same elements that we're all used to, but they're from different ethnic backgrounds. So there's like an Egyptian god. There is of course we know Bast. But one of the gods, the goddess of water, of the ocean, basically, in Wakanda is Mujaji. Mujaji is kind of like Yemenja, Olokun, for those of you who are scholars of African diasporic deities. But in real life, the Mujaji cult is in South Africa. In real life, this is a matrilineal society, and you can look them up. And they've always been matrilineal, and it's a woman that is always the priestess, the head priestess, and she always has her wives around her. It has nothing to do, it's not a sexual thing. It's just there's no, in their language, sister, aunt, wife, mother are all the same word. So it just translates to wife in English. And so the first Mujaji priest was, I don't know if it was a family member or just a man in the community, was attacked by a man because he was like, a woman should not be queen. And she was saved by another woman. And then she immediately said, my entire court will only be women. This is real life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is where I got. So when I read this, then I'm like, that's it. Because you can't tell me in the thousands of years of history of Black Panther, there've only been 2 women and nobody had a problem with that.
Right.
And so I said, all right, Nahanda is canonically the oldest. I could prove that because Ta-Nehisi Coates and Jonathan Hickman said it first.
Right.
So I'm going to make her the creator of the Dora Milaje. And I used a similar story that somebody in her court tried to poison her. A sister who was a servant saved her life. And she was like, you know what? Bet.
Yeah.
Only women. And I'm going to take one woman from every tribe of Wakanda that is barren. And she will become they will become my wives. Because barren women were outcast anyway.
Right. Oh, that's dope, man.
And so it was like this one thing. And I was like, they're never going to let me do this. And the editor was like, we love it. And I was like, yes.
That is so dope. I just picture her saving her from being poisoned and then shoot plays from Wait and Exhale. And it's like, you know what? This is what it's about from now on. Okay.
But then it was really interesting because remember I said I did the history of all the different kings. It was very interesting to go from that to how did we get to they're all potential wives and you have to only speak to me and nobody else. It was very interesting to be able to pull that thread. Like this is how it started. Like a Black woman started it, but this is where we are now.
Yeah, typical.
And so, and so, and the interpretation of things. And I think that's the other thing that's there's so much to get. This isn't like you read the book, the story from beginning to end kind of thing.
Right.
There's a bunch of different entries and I want this to be like somebody's textbook for their comic. So
yeah, I think it's gonna be. Like that was the thing that struck me when I started reading it was like, oh no, this is it says the instruction guide. It feels like very much like no, turn to chapter 7. Okay, that is
right. I want you like, okay, so in chapter 2, verse 7,
exactly.
This morning. Sunday morning, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. That is not you. You clearly are not up to. You're not up to the third book. Like,
and I actually got glasses on, so I can push you up my nose. But I will actually, and adjust it and move my pocket protector.
But man, I just want to point this out because, like, I am so lucky that I got people like Sheba Maya, who is an oil painter to do. And I was like, y'all got to talk to her early because she takes. It's oil painting. She's not going to do this in a minute. And so she did all my, she did all my chapter headings. Like, look at this. This is paintings.
And keep in mind, you had how many weeks to do this?
15. Oh, they were working in tandem. They weren't like, she wasn't waiting for me to finish to start painting.
Okay. Because I was going to say all this, but just the fact that this all came together is just. This is amazing. Cool. Oh my God. Look at this.
Like dog. Even like right. Exactly. And then we even have I think and then we even have like I said, we've got even like fighting styles in here.
Yeah.
And like hand-to-hand combat, mental, security formations.
Y'all did that, man.
And like look, these are the different spear tips. Because for some reason, everybody thinks there's only 2. Like, they think it's just that one. And I'm like, So, but yeah, I hope that here's the thing. I want people to have conversations about the book. I want people to go buy some of the comics. I want people to buy this and like the Wakanda Atlas and sit down and go, oh my God. So this was here, that was there.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a great conversation with somebody who was like, yo, I want to do a role-playing game. I was like, yo, hold on to that idea. Maybe we got to go to Marvel. Hang
on. Come on, let's go. And like the other thing too is like, you talked about how there's different entry points into this like world, right? And this lore. You've now created an entry point for somebody. Like somebody's going to come into the game from this and they're going to be well-versed. I did want to ask too, like, what has been your experience with like the, online, like have you been getting it from the like people that are I'm just here for the movie or we need to recast T'Challa or what a woman doing writing comics, like have you been getting it from them too?
So everybody, and this is just a general thing. So first of all, anybody, I have a blue check mark on Twitter. I didn't buy it. I didn't pay
Me
for that.
neither.
I got it when I was working with Sci-Fi, and I actually was able to be on TV. Anybody who works for a network, you actually can get a blue check mark if you work for a network for a certain amount of time. That's how I got mine. I don't work there anymore, but I kept my blue check mark.
Right.
Anybody who gets a blue check mark usually catches it.
Right.
So like, oh, they just gave this to her because she got a blue check mark. I'm like, and there's this really weird thing that people think that if you got a blue check mark, that there's actually a check involved, like money, like they pay
Like
me.
payment,
I'm like,
yes.
no, I'm struggling to pay my mortgage. Like, I don't know.
I blame, you know what? I blame the trap brunches. When we started going to trap brunch as blue check mark people, we isolated a lot of folks, and I regret those.
Plug the game up.
I didn't know that. See, I wasn't even invited to those. So y'all, I'm with y'all.
That was okay. Yeah, I gotta send you a DM for where the trap brunches is at.
Yeah, I didn't even know what those were. So there's a certain, and then there's a certain group of people. They're just, and I don't know. Maybe it's my age. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I've been, like, before I was doing writing, I was in video editing. I used to work in advertising. I've just about always been the Black woman in the room that's either underestimated or hated. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just used to it, but there's always a certain level of hate that just exists in my timeline. I love Lakita. Lakita, you trying to get a free book, aren't you? She already said I'm 25. Yes, Lakita, I am.
I was kind of like a white CIA agent seeing the door for the first time.
Get bumbled in the room.
Yeah, look, my camera wouldn't even let me stay on with that one. My camera was like, let's take her out before she continues.
A whole hater. The camera
Hang
just
on a second. Let me see what's going on.
The camera was like, you think
you.
you're 25?
Exactly. Look. Even Crowdcast won't let me tell that lie. Hang on. And it's like literally not letting me turn my camera.
Oh no.
Let me find out where my settings are real quick. As long as y'all can still hear me, I will continue.
We can hear you. If you want to take the time to refresh, feel free to do that.
I don't understand why it's not like every now and then Crowdcast is like, nope.
Yeah,
I think they're playing games.
Yeah.
I think they're playing games. Okay, I'm gonna refresh and I'm gonna see if I can come back in.
No problem.
Oh, no problem, sweetie.
But yeah, the only reason I bring that up is because
we blaming Lakita. Lakita got her kicked out.
Yeah, the only reason I bring that up is because I think the experience of a lot of Black women and women in general is already can be bad within the nerd sphere. But then when you throw in race, when you throw in these movements that like the Recast T'Challa movement and stuff, which seems to be a pretty gendered movement. I haven't engaged. I also, like Karama, don't really engage with folks, and I don't fight them. I don't argue with them online. So in a lot of these cases, I'm not the one to it'll mean that I don't know all the details of the ins and outs of the fighting. But for me, you see stuff on the fringes where you're like, that just seems like harassment with more steps. So that just seems like like you're upset that women are playing in the sandbox with the toys, or how dare women have different opinions about the way that they've been portrayed through comics and through the eyes mostly of men and stuff like that.
Right.
So,
and I know for me, for a very, very long time, I know it was a running joke on, for those of you that listen to the Nerd Off, how I would never claim being a nerd because I just want to like shit and love shit and enjoy shit. I am not the type of person that hates shit. I am not the type of person to challenge you on what the fuck you like. I actually do not care. I can learn from you. You can learn from me. But, just on the outside looking in for a very long time, I was like, oh no, nerd is them people who, push their glasses up, roll a pocket protector, and then just go down all the details of the Star Wars. I was like, I don't know that shit. So I guess I'm not a nerd.
Yeah, there's a lot of nerd checking. And then there's also that very gendered nerd checking, like asking what comics did you read in order to talk about this, that you wouldn't ask a guy, but you ask a woman.
Right.
You see that type of thing. And then, just general harassment. We know within social media, like especially women of color, especially Black women, get so much more harassment and there's so less protections because these things are designed and created by white men
Right.
with white people's experience in mind. So there's very little idea to like. So I think anytime you get like a spotlight shine on you, or like you become the arbiter of the story, like Karama's now telling the story. There's going to be pushback from people who feel this entitlement to like, it's my story, the way I feel is matter. But it's like, how would it not supersede everything to have a black woman write about black women's experience? So I was just curious to see if that was something she was dealing with.
Right. And Lakita says that she's never read a comic book. The thing what I'm gonna tell you, for me personally, what introduced everybody get introduced to comic books differently. I was not raised up on comic books. Like Roger he's been reading for decades, ever since he was a child. I love cartoons. And so any cartoon that you actually love, there is a comic book about it. So I got introduced to comic books through my love of the Powerpuff Girls. I absolutely adore, still to this day, one of my favorite cartoons, the Powerpuff Girls. So this was years ago when there was the Barnes and Nobles, the Books A Million, where you could go in and actually go and like spin a little thing around, and they have like all these comic books on it. Because I would go to the comic book store with Roger when you used to have to do like you do the records, dig through the crates, and he would pick stuff, and I would just be fumbling around, and then I don't know if I saw it or you saw it. You was like, "Oh, it's a Powerpuff comic book."
I saw it. It was that thing where I was like, the easiest way to get someone interested in something is to start with something they already like and then cross over. And so I knew you love Powerpuff Girls, so I just bought a bunch of them and was like, yo, you should check these out because you already are familiar with the characters and the story. And I think very much a lot of black people, especially, they may not be interested in all the comics, but a lot of them are interested in Black Panther, specifically. All right, let me invite Karama back on screen, and we'll wrap up the interview. But yeah, a lot of black people's entry was Black Panther the movie, and there's no shame in that. Like going and I think a lot of black people are. It's not necessarily that they're 100% interested in all comic book lore, but they might specifically just be interested in Black Panther and Black Panther history and Black Panther Wakanda history. And so this is the kind of book that you can give them. I'm already like circling like my niece for like Christmas or something. Like, all right, let's get her this book, because I think, especially people like avid readers and stuff like that, this is a world they wanted to explore. And as Karama just pointed out, there's been so much lore that's just been written in 2 years. Like, this lore wasn't necessarily there for everybody. Cookbooks, you know what I mean? Like,
I found that cookbook. Like, I was like, oh shit!
Like, that's so nerdy to be like, but it's just something you never think about. Where it's like, yeah, what do they eat? What's a Wakandan dish? What does that taste like?
Right.
So I think all of that stuff is extremely interesting to a certain demographic of people, and so I don't think anybody should ever be ashamed about their entry into the world. There's so many people that I know, they start liking stuff because the cartoons for Justice League and Batman. There's people that I was a person that I read the comic books, but that's because honestly, before the comic books, there wasn't a lot.
No,
so
there wasn't before the cartoons.
Yeah, like before the cartoons, really before like the TV shows where a guy in a Spider-Man costume climbing the side of a building, but really it was just him pantomiming on the ground, and it was 1970s Batman punch, like with the boom pow. So like those were the things that I was used to. That was my entry points, and then I ended up reading a lot of comics and stuff.
Yeah, and also I think for me, and not that we would have an audience like this, but I know a lot of people don't consider comic book reading as reading, but it's reading. And a lot of parents kind of deter children from reading comic books because they don't actually take it seriously, but it's actually reading. And so it's one of those things where if you want to kind of get a child interested into reading, that's one great way of doing it without, shaming them or feeling like if it's not a novel, you're fucking wasting your time. And I feel like you do yourself and your child a disservice whenever adults just assume that comic book reading is not actually reading.
Yeah. So, okay, yeah, Karama's trying to get on, but I guess it's giving her some issues with her camera or
Yeah, she said,
something.
"Can you send
So
it
she's gonna
again?"
try to do audio only.
Mhm.
So I need to let me resend this invite. No problem.
No problem.
And we're gonna try to wrap it. We were almost done, I promise y'all. I was really just about to be like, girl, we love you, you know, all that good stuff. So if we could get her on, we'll wrap it up. And if push comes to shove, I also emailed her to say just send us your phone number. I can do Skype if we have to. So
yeah, Adam West counts. You
all
know,
of it counts.
yeah, all of it
Nothing.
counts.
There is nothing that doesn't count.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing I want people to realize. I think especially women like often get pushed out of like, I'm not a nerd, or I don't. These motherfucking dudes have so much confidence and audacity. If there's no shortage of it, they count it all. Like anything. Like, there's so many dudes. It's really just audacity and entitlement where they try to come at people and be like, you can't be in this. And it makes no sense, because I know from the time that I started reading stuff, I just wanted to grow. I love what we're going through now. I love that there's everybody's kind of a nerd. Everyone knows Marvel stuff. Everyone knows Disney stuff. Everyone knows DC stuff. I love that. That's the world. That's much preferable to this than when I was a kid, and I was like a kid with a backpack of comics and hoping nobody found them and shit, you know?
Yeah, and also I think for me, I got into the CW through the CW show, through Arrowverse. You know, a lot of the Marvel stuff, I am like a lot of other people, Captain America, Thor, you know, a lot of these people I literally had never heard of before prior to the movies. I'm just keep it real. So to me, I absolutely positively, like, I love this. And the way that a lot of nerds, not trying funny, know your comic books, that's how I know these movies. I've watched a lot of these movies umpteen times. It's like, y'all go back and read your favorite runs. I watch a lot of these movies umpteen times, and I can tell you the storylines and, you know, the through lines and all that stuff. And I absolutely love it. So you can be a nerd in different areas, because they are movie nerds that will never read the comic books, but they know about the movies.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they're less or more.
It's kind of that thing where everybody's a nerd now.
Correct.
Like, it really went from nobody, like, I think even I've said this before, but even the meaning of nerd has changed in my lifetime. Nerd used to mean social outcast, social pariah, something like that. And I think now it means like somebody's knowledgeable about something, or somebody that's like into the certain type of pop culture. Okay, she just posted a sweating emoji, so I imagine it is not going well.
She can text you
trying to hop back on. It says accepted and connected, but it seems like it's not gonna let her connect again for some reason. I have no idea why. But you know what? That is fine. Everything's okay. Let me tell y'all where to get this book. Okay, it's called Black Panther: Protectors of Wakanda. A history and training manual of the Dora Milaje from the Marvel Universe. And you can get it. I got it on Amazon, but I'm assuming you can get it anywhere you get books.
Leave reviews.
Yeah, go leave her. Oh, there she is. She's back.
That was a fight. Girl was like, I don't know you. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Listen, you fought through. You back, and now we get to listen. We were wrapping up.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
No, you good, baby.
We were wrapping up anyway. I'm gonna blame the recast T'Challa movement. I brought that question up, and then they canceled.
It's you. They hacked me.
They took off screen. They said we don't want no woman speaking.
Well, actually, so I'll just briefly talk about that, because we've been talking forever. I wrote actually my first article for Mashable was about recast T'Challa. And it's interesting because they reached out and wanted me to write about it, and they were like, yeah, like maybe you could say a few words about this. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it properly, and I'm going to talk to a bunch of different people. It's not going to be my opinion. It's going to be from a journalist. Like, a journalist in me came out. Like, I'm going to give an objective recounting of what it is. And I think the most interesting thing that came out of that entire experience was that it didn't start the way people think it started, and it's not ending the way people thought it would end.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, and I, again, also apparently the majority of the people who follow the hashtag are going to see the movie. There's all these different little offshoots now that are, some are boycotting, some aren't. Those are probably the same people that are boycotting The Woman King. Listen, what I said, and I said this in the article, I don't think Marvel could have conjured a better advertising strategy for Black Panther. Like, the amount of people that have been talking about the movie nonstop for the past, since he passed away, because of that hashtag, they couldn't have. And I'm not saying that anybody should be advertising or profiting off of Chadwick Boseman's death. Do not misquote me. But what I am saying is, how it started is not how it's finishing. The only reason why I can't say that I support the concept, I can't support the hashtag, because there's too many people too many misogynists and too many people who have subtweeted me and called me out my name on other people's shows. That actually happened very recently. That somebody who did not know that the show that they were on was a friend of mine tried that, and they were like, "I'm gonna need you to stop because I know Karama, and we're not doing that today."
Wow.
So yeah, it's just, and that's the funny thing, that this is one reason also I'm kind of not on Facebook anymore, because I kept being invited to comic book groups that were dragging me, and I'm like,
why? Like, that don't make no sense. I tell people, and I periodically I do a huge post for family and friends. I am not joining any groups. I am not following any pages. Quit sending them to me.
You're so cute. The way to quit sending them to me.
You're going to get a rejection.
I think the thing that I know, and again, I'm old enough to remember a lot of the nasty things that people say to you online. I'm old enough to have had people say them to my face. So
yeah.
And I'm a stroke survivor.
Right.
So whenever anybody's losing their mind, I'm just like, thank you for contributing to the algorithm. Have the day you deserve.
Right. Yeah, I feel you.
Because it's just, and also the algorithm gives you more of what you talk about. So if you talk, that's why every 2 hours I'm on like emergency kittens or something. So that I can just clean up the timeline.
Yeah, I literally just do not like. That's the thing.
Memes,
sometimes
gifts. That's me.
Sometimes I'm out of the loop because I just don't engage with that type of like mess. Like,
but I just tell the truth, you just don't care.
I'm not a community guy, but for the most part, it's just like, I don't know, from the fringes. Sometimes you can just pick up vibes of like, there's a certain type of person I don't fuck with that is talking to people I do like, being like, this is what it's like, you know what, I don't care enough to get involved with y'all. Like, just good luck with your movement, and if it matters that much to you, you know, God bless you. But I think a lot of stuff on the internet, and I think we've all seen this at this point, trends towards these like Gamergate misogyny, like a lot of stuff just kind of goes that way, whether it was intended to or not.
And also, they also know that if you yell at a Black woman that's got a lot of followers, you'll get a lot of traction. Yeah. And I don't give them that. Like, I have dudes that do that all day, and like, you know, and you go and look, they got 7 followers, and they're trying to be like, you had these 7 things wrong in your article. How dare you get to write a book? And I'm like, okay.
And I think it's also an assumption people have is like, when you don't see somebody reacting to it all the time, they just think it's not happening. But I think that's also just like prioritization, right? Like, what is important to me? These trolls and responding to them all day and letting them know how they affect me is not as important to me as, you know, emergency kittens or whatever. Like,
right. Yeah. Also, yes. Emergency kittens is way more important.
And also, I've had some like real life challenges. You know what I mean? Like I said, there might be a day that the only thing I go harder in the paint for people that are friends of mine that I see they're getting dragged than me.
Right.
And very recently I found like a bunch of people out there like defending me, and I'm like, oh my God, please, I don't want you losing sleep over these fools, please.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, I appreciate it, but I don't want you getting your account restricted or whatever.
Right.
Because you're fighting somebody who just has hated me for like a decade.
I was saying this yesterday when someone wrote in about the Black Little Mermaid, and I was like, I don't even be mad because like we already won, y'all. We got it. Like, they can't take it from us. The movie coming out.
But you don't understand. It's gonna be even. We've got a Black Little Mermaid, we got a Black
Yep.
Tinkerbell, we got Black Elves, we got Black
Yep.
Fairies, we've got Black people in. We got Black blonde folks in Game of Thrones. We got Black Targaryens, basically.
Come on.
We've got my book coming out. We got Woman King. We're about to have Marvels, which has got all women, including Black women. Yeah, we got Black Dragon Riders. Exactly. We've got all of these. Even the next Sherlock Holmes is going to be about his niece. Like we've got. If you think that I need everybody to pace
I've never
themselves,
seen Sherlock Holmes. I might go watch that shit.
And I said, listen. There's a chapter in here on courage and relaxation and bringing yourself down. You need to practice that. Because this is a marathon, not a race. The hate is going to be very strong by this time next year. And I need everybody to breathe. And when they have those moments where it's like, oh my God, everybody on the internet hates Black women. You need to just go, no, they don't. It's just the 37 that are in this corner seem to.
Right.
Okay.
And they're loud and they're getting amplified.
They happen to have bull horns. So
I meet people in the past week, I've met hundreds of people who've never heard of me, never heard of the book, never. Every day I meet somebody, right? But I'm just saying, like, quit. And I actually think I did it. I think I did TikTok about this. Like, quit fighting with the same 5 people over here. There are hundreds over there that love you.
Come on,
like
stop.
We're taking our energy back in 2022.
Right.
Put it on a t-shirt,
right, and put that somewhere else because the way that I feel about this, if it don't make money, it don't make sense. Me arguing with you is not putting a motherfucking dollar in my pocket. Me arguing with you is actually taking away my time from something else that I could be making more money. You are wasting my time.
There you go. Preach.
Well,
it's you not helping my mortgage or my meals.
Let's help Karama. Let's help Karama pay her mortgage
and her bills
and get her meals.
Well, there's one thing I wanted to do before I left, and I was so upset because the camera wasn't working. To somebody in the audience, I want to give one of these away that's signed.
Oh,
do you want to play a game?
How do you want to give it away?
Very, very simple. So, somebody needs to pick. Okay, I think the easiest way I did this last time was like I was having somebody pick a number between 1 and 20, and then Rod or Karen, y'all pick a number, but don't say it out loud yet. So in the thing, in the chat, pick a number between 1 and 20, and Rod, whatever number that you're thinking of, whoever's closest to that number, you get to choose.
I'm not looking at it, the screen.
He's not looking at the screen. He's looking around.
I'm not picking a favorite. I'm just letting y'all know.
Okay, so wait. They're putting numbers in. I'm going to stop them in a second.
Let me know when they're done.
Okay. Keep putting those numbers. Put the numbers between 1 and 20. Okay, I think it's done. Okay,
yeah, I think it's done.
All right, he's not looking at the screen.
Number 13. The unlucky number 13.
I think we've got a 13. Let's see if there's multiple people did 13.
The first one
person did 13. I see. Devil bitch. I love it.
Devil bitch is the first person to do
there you
13.
Go. Okay.
Devil bitch.
That could be a nickname for like the grimiest Dora Milaje. Okay.
Did you want them to put their email in the chat?
No. They're gonna give it to you. They're going to give you all their information, and then you're going to give it to me. So, Devil Bitch, congratulations.
Email us, theblackguywtips@gmail. Put your email in the chat, too, just so I can verify that it's you. Because some of these people are crafty, and they're like, they will be in the spy part of the Dora Milaje, so they might try to mimic you. So, put your email address in the chat.
Oh, wait, you know what? I just realized something. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Apparently, one other person also did 13. Okay. I think that was Think Pretty Smart. So, we'll do 2. Devil Bitch and Think Pretty Smart, because you said
you get a book. You get a book.
No, because they both did 13, and that's really hard to do.
It's turning into Oprah. Okay. I just feel like I'm giving away Oprah's favorite things over here.
Okay, Devil Bitch and TPS, put your email.
I know Miss Smart email address.
Okay, you know Miss Smart. Okay.
All right, cool. All right, we got you.
But thank you so much for having me. I am gonna let y'all go, but the next signing I'm gonna be at is at the Schomburg on Wednesday of this week, and I think I'm definitely going to be, I have a panel at New York Comic Con, and there's going to be another thing I do here in New York pretty soon. So please support, please buy the book. Please, once you get it, if you like it, please leave a nice comment. If it's not a nice comment, don't do that. Please leave a nice comment on the place that you bought it from. And if you were looking to buy multiple copies, please consider buying your second or third or fourth or fifth copy from a Black bookstore or an independent bookstore, because they could use that love.
Yes. Oh, I was still thinking about the people. Thank you for being on. This is so amazing.
You were so knowledgeable.
I always enjoy talking to you.
Yes.
There's very few people I can nerd out with this hard about.
That don't get mad.
I feel like if there's anything, there's like pockets of the audience that might be mad that are like, what are they talking about? It's another language, but I don't care. I had such a good time.
Yes, this was fun.
You're welcome back anytime, and thank you for coming on with us. Tell everybody where to find you, and then we'll be out.
Okay. You can find me. I'm the Blerd Gurl everywhere, usually on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and I'm also theblerdgurl.com. There's a page also up there about the Protectors of Wakanda, where you can find out where I'm going next and what I'm doing. Just follow me. And also I have a newsletter, so I'm going to be updating that regularly so you know what's going on. But thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. And we'll be back definitely Tuesday. We're interviewing Abby Crutchfield, comedian, the late night show host. And of course, Wednesday we're doing our Game of Thrones recap. So we'll see y'all then, and probably Monday, but I'm just throwing it out there. Y'all may not see us tomorrow. All right. Until next time, I love you.
I do too.
Mwah. Bye, everybody. Bye, Karama.
Sorry for the tech problems, but thank you.